Hello everyone, it's our weekly Subspace desktop meeting, and as usual we will provide you with the latest updates and changes to the application. I'm going to start with sharing my screen. So we can start with the closed issues to recap on the last week. Basically, it's starting from here. Yes, let's skip that. So we hide the reset button in production mode, so users won't be able to click to the reset button. And that's how they won't do any mistake of deleting their plots. This reset button was intended for development purpose, so it makes sense to hide it in the production mode. We had the linting in CI, so we closed it as well. No need to dive deep into that. We changed all the TSSC occurrences as string to test SSC in the application, throughout the application. We are now showing the node name in the main menu. This has a graphic, so let me show that. In here, now when the node initialized, you will see the node name in italic, fascinated writing, blah, 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 in this case, so that you can copy this string. It's copyable, like you can select this text, and you can search it on telemetry if you like. That's one of the most common requests from the users, so we implemented that.
Awesome.
This
I was
is a
going to
test
make a quick question on that. Do we have an issue open for making that configurable on the desktop app, that node name?
No, we don't. Should I make one?
Okay. Yeah, let's just make one, throw it in the backlog, and we'll discuss that more in the grooming session. I'll make
Okay,
a note for that. We'll cover it later. You can go ahead. I'll make a note for it.
Thank you. Also, our users are mostly sending screenshots to us, and for increasing the debugging capabilities, we are now displaying the version in here in the application. This might change. It is mostly for helping the debugging part, but it's good to have that in here. Maybe when the app becomes close to its finalized version, we may get rid of this and place it into the menu about section. So it will not be displayed directly. This was a previous issue related to 04, and it is fixed in this. So I just closed it again because this is fixed. No need to go deep. This one, yeah, this was closed. It's just an upgrade on that. So the Tauricon part will be updated. The bug is fixed. Like previously, we had to manipulate the icon ourselves manually to fix the Linux crash bug. Now, Tauri team is aware of that and fixed it, and it will be available for the next Tauricon release, which is good news. We don't have to tinker with the icons manually. This was a test issue. This is a duplicate one. I will inspect that with the open issues. And this is again a bug fixed, a bug persistent on 040, but fixed on 041, so it's closed again. And any questions for the closed ones? Okay, so I can skip to the new issues. All right, we have a lot. So this is submitted by Justin. It's a quite funny bug. So when the application is hidden, and you click.
Let's go through the new issues in the grooming session. So let's just focus on what you have in the PRs, and then we can go through the demo today.
Okay. Actually, since I was preparing the new code. Demo is not ready, my bad, but all the new changes were version display and mnemonic display. Sorry, node name display. So we already showed them as a graphic. So demo will not be different, even if it was ready. So we can skip the demo. Okay, for the pull requests, the closed ones are from here. SR Labs found a security issue and we fixed it like very quickly. This is related to some backend cross-originated for request forgery, I believe, and this is for the reset button hidden on production. This is for node name and version display, and also TSSCs into test SSCs. And this is for bumping the version to this. We have a new release today released named 0.4.2, which includes a bug fix for, let me actually show you the release notes. This will be better. So this is a pre-release. It's just released today, and I believe Justin will test it within a day or two, and then we will make it stable. So what's changed is we fixed the application. In some case, application was not remembering if the user has started plotting, and it was starting from quick start. It was starting from scratch. This issue was the only issue known in 0.4.1, and it was fixed in this version. Now we are showing the node name, the version, reset button is hidden, and these are the issues that are closed. And for the next release, multi-replica is on the way. I just made the latest changes for archival node to full node in the Tower backend as well. And Nazar will review them today, and hopefully, and it will be merged. So yeah, the open pull request is about multi-replica. We don't need to go deep in that. And I think
Actually, I would like to go a little bit deeper into that. If you could just give us more granularity on what's ready or when you think that'll be ready.
Code-wise, everything is ready. I believe we are 100% synced with the monorepo. So just today, Nazar changed something in the monorepo and immediately pinged me, and I immediately changed here. So he will just review the changes, and then it will be ready to go. So this PR was open for a long time, around 9 days, and it also includes all the bug fixes for previous versions. So it is up to date with the main, and yeah, it mainly deals with new multi-replica, which means it also incorporates reward address, and the front end will not deal with public key anymore. So all the public key related things from front end is eliminated. We are only dealing with reward address in the front end, and also previously backend was sending public key to the front end. We don't do that anymore. That's all about the changes of this PR if we ignore the implementation details.
Özkan, are we linking the issues to the PRs that they're closed in?
Yes.
After the PR is merged or even while it's in progress?
Usually during the progress, if I forget something, and this happens very rarely, like I can show you.
Okay, is there a way that I can see all the issues, or is there like a view where you can, for a particular PR, see all the issues that it's resolving?
Sorry, can you repeat?
So for this PR multi-replica, you said like, well, this solves this issue and this issue and this bug. Is there like a view where I can see, or that you can show us like all of the issues associated or linked to this PR that should be closed when the PR is merged?
Multi-replica only solves multi-replica. Actually, all the other issues have been solved with other PRs. when I mentioned about other bugs, I meant this PR is open about 9 days, and throughout the 9 days, other issues were also solved, and this is up to date with those changes as well. So when I was testing multi-replica, it was not with the buggy version, it was with the up-to-date main version.
But those issues are not in the main branch yet. Those fixes that you're describing, they're just in this branch.
Those issues I mean are fixed with other PRs, and on those PRs you can see the linked issues.
Okay. Maybe what I'm asking for doesn't make sense. We'll talk about it more later.
Okay.
Okay. Go ahead, Oscar.
So that's all, actually.
Okay. So this PR, you can't show us a demo for this latest state here. That this
I
multi-replica
actually
version.
showed you the demo last week. So from last week, nothing has changed. It just works with the public setting instead of local setting. So everything you will see will be the same.
So you mean that you're connecting to the public farm net versus a local node when you run the desktop app now?
Exactly.
Okay.
But in the GUI, everything is same.
Okay. And how much testing have you done on that so far?
I tried with a couple of different plot sizes. Some of them less than the blockchain size, some of them bigger than the blockchain size. I tested on iMac and MacBook Pro, and that's all.
Okay. And so what I'd like to start doing with, now that we have multi-replica farming exposed, we actually have a lot of issues with it. We're learning from the testing Yvonne is doing. And I had a discussion with Nazar yesterday. We're probably gonna have to re-architect some of the way that the whole setup of the node and the farmer work together. They're kind of like fighting over the disk, and that's what's making it really slow. Plotting works great when we run it in isolation. You know, when we do the benches that Supernational did for us, if that's the only thing that the disk is using, it's great. But when we have plotting, a binary search tree, a block database, and a state database, all fighting over the disk, and it's a spinning disk, it is painfully slow. If it's an SSD, it's not as noticeable, but it's still slow. We need to start having a more deliberate and documented approach to doing this plot testing in the multi-replica setting, or the pick your own plot size setting. So for now, let's just keep it simple. Let's just like add it in to this PR, like as a comment, like, hey, I ran some tests on this machine, and so these are the things that we need to specifically capture. Okay, what operating system it was on, what platform it was on, what type of disk we're using. Is it an HDD? Is it a regular solid state drive? Is it an NVMe solid state drive? Okay, we don't need to get into like the model just yet, but like what broad classification of drive is it? How big is the plot that we're actually creating? And then how long does it take? We need to measure the time. So for instance, it took me 7 days to plot 1 terabyte on a Mac with a solid state drive.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I can do so in the future, yeah.
And then from that, we will pull out a plotting speed, plotting throughput. Okay. And that's really what matters at the end of the day. What is this plotting throughput? And we're kind of getting at a lot of these things tangentially, but we need to really get at that core number and make sure that we have an apples to apples comparison. Because it's like, well, it was like, how did it go? It was fast on my machine. It was slow on my machine. It's like very subjective. It's like really hard to understand how that, like, it worked, you know. We need something like, it worked at this speed, you know, on this machine is really what we need to get to. And we need to get to the point where it's a reasonable speed across all machines, regardless of the drive, regardless of the platform. That's what we need to get towards. This is going to be a process of several weeks to get there. It's not just, obviously there's a lot on the back end side on the farmer implementation and even the node implementation that we have to change to support this. But we've got to verify that this is how it's working on the desktop app. And we don't even really know what the baseline is right now, like the baseline of slowness. We know what the baseline of like theoretical maximum is with the plotting implementation with the CPU or a GPU. But that what we've learned is that is actually very different from what it is when you roll it up into the full application. It's very different actual performance. Does that make sense?
A lot. Yeah. Doable from now on.
Okay, so before you merge this PR, I'd like you to run that test and put those results in here in that format. And Justin, as you test yourself, I'd like you to put them in the same format.
Awesome. Can do.
Awesome. And we also, like, just so everybody is aware of this, we have this like weird setup right now where if you say I want to plot a terabyte, you're not actually plotting a terabyte, right? You're creating whatever percentage of the blockchain size is of 100 gigabytes. So like, what is the blockchain now? Like 5 gigabytes on FarmNet, something like that, fully encoded. So that means that if you create a 1 terabyte plot, it's only going to create 5%. It's only going to fill up 5% because it can only fill up to that 100 gigabyte size limit. So it's not even that you really plotted a terabyte, like you're plotting 5% of a terabyte. So that should kind of factor. Otherwise, it'll look like, oh, wow, this is performing amazingly. We plotted a terabyte in 2 hours, but you actually only plotted 50 gigabytes.
Right, because it's only partial replica at this point. It's not full multi-replica just yet.
No, it's because, it sounds like we probably need to document this because I think this exists in Nazar and Avant's head right now. I don't know if it's documented. Correct me if I'm wrong. I was going to know there's been a lot of updates to the documentation in the README in the last couple of days. But the way that it works is there's an assumption right now in the implementation of the farmer, the backend farmer, and really it follows through into the desktop app. There's an assumption that there's a maximum plot size of 100 gigabytes, but there's also an assumption that the blockchain is at least 100 gigabytes. Okay. And so if you say I want to plot 1 terabyte, what it does is it says, oh, well, the blockchain should be 100 gigabytes at least. So I'm going to create 10 plots that are sort of like sized to 100 gigabytes. So I'm going to allocate like 10 100 gigabyte sectors of the disk. And then I'm going to start, because that's the first thing. It sets it up. It sort of allocates the space, or it sort of creates like a structure of how the plot or the farm is going to work. And then it goes through and like starts importing the archive segments and then writing those segments. Like for each one of those plots, there's a different node ID, right? And so it takes a piece and it creates 10, like in parallel, it creates 10 different encodings of that piece under 10 different node IDs and writes one piece to each plot. And it kind of fills them up like one at a time. They're slowly getting full in the assumption that we have 100 gigabytes, but we don't actually have 100 gigabytes. We have 5 gigabytes. So each one of those plots is getting 5% full. And they're like, I think they might even be like highly fragmented over the disk, based on the way that the plots are being allocated or written. So there's a lot of these like weird,
just kind of an edge case situation.
Yeah. And once we have 100 gigabyte history, at least 100 gigabyte history, then everybody will just be creating like 10 full replicas. When we have a 200 gigabyte history, everybody will be creating a 50% partial replica on each plot, but still creating 10 different plots, right? So it's kind of hard to like test this and understand like what the performance is if you don't really have the mental model to conceptually understand what's actually happening under the scenes. And of course, for our users, this shouldn't matter to them, right? but we need to make sure that it matters to us when we're testing it. Does that make sense to everybody? Do I, like, stop, like, if it's not clear right now, stop me, because it's like really important to understand how this is actually architected, how it's working right now.
And that cleared up my my question. Thank you.
Okay.
All fine.
So awesome. So to that point, you know, keep that in mind. What it, like, whenever you create this report, what is the size of the blockchain? And then you need to sort of normalize the plotting throughput based on what is the actual plot that I'm creating. We used to have some like rough benches that would automatically get generated, like a report that would get generated from this. I think that got deprecated, and then maybe it got added back in, but it's not really maybe exposed by the library. So it, like, in an ideal case, we will bake this into the backend library, so you could just literally ask, like, what was the plotting progress, versus having to do this manually. But we just need to start somewhere. So we'll start just recording it manually and putting it into these notes. Okay. So before this PR gets merged to Ozgen, we need to do, at least on one system, we need to do just trying to think, how's this actually going to work? Because what you said is not what you get. So we're probably going to need to do, if we do 1 terabyte, you get 50 gigabytes actual plot size. Yeah, there's really, you're just basically testing partial replica plotting, unless you do like 10,000 plots. And then you're going to fill up the whole disk. But that's, if you do like 10,000 plots, which it's not, yeah, you can't even select that from the.
Why don't we just test on the network that has Polkadot? That should work just fine.
We can do that. That's what Yvonne was trying to do. There are a lot of nuances around that, not actually, like, basically getting banned because you look like a greedy node that's trying to take too much data. Gotcha. So Yvonne, that didn't work like we thought. So Yvonne was having to generate data manually. Then Nazar synced a node, or he's still syncing a node. So you might be able to sync from Nazar's node, but then you have to sync that data, and it's taken several days for Nazar to sync that before he can even start testing it. And he's not fully caught up. So there's a lot of just testing challenges that we have right now. But at least let's test it 1 terabyte. That'll give us a 50 gigabyte plot. Let's just try to keep it at that limit. Okay, actually, Ozgen, if you set 1 terabyte, you actually have to have 1 terabyte available, even if it's not gonna utilize all that space, right?
It will not utilize
Like
that space, but I don't know.
Well, I mean, you won't be able to set the desired plot size beyond what space is actually available. So if you only actually have like 100 gigabytes available on your machine, then we're looking at a 5 gigabyte plot size that'll actually get created.
I think
5
so. Yeah.
gigabyte aggregation over 10 plots. Okay. Okay, well, let's aim for this. Let's do 10, 100, 10 gigabytes, 100 gigabytes, and 1 terabyte. Just 3 step sizes, up to whatever you have. So if you don't have a terabyte, obviously you can't do that, but just do as much as you can. I think everybody should have 10 gigabytes and 100 gigabytes to do that.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay, and I'd like to see that for one machine before we merge the PR, and make sure that this is reasonable as well, because on Yvonne's machine it never even finished. It was so slow. So it will be interesting to see if we can actually even create these plots or not with the implementation as it is. I don't want to release something out to the users that is just going to basically hang forever, and then we get a bunch of messages in the Discord about it, even in a pre-release mode, because we know they're going to still download it even if it's pre-release.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry, I'm off my soapbox now. Continue, Ozgen.
No problem. That's all what I was saying. So actually, I'm finished.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the group? All right. I think we're good, Özkan.
Okay. Thank you very much, everybody, for listening and viewing this video. See you next week. Bye bye.
Everybody.